cafe. Well, because now we're doing everything outside of the church, so of course all the money's going to go outside of the church. So hopefully they let me, bring, pack coolers and cater on. But a food truck or a food trailer, it's just really hot right now, and it doesn't matter whose name's on the side of the truck, and you can go there you can go there undercover. You don't have to put Grace Church at Eden Prairie on the side, saving souls for 500 years, and you don't have to go that way. You do something real subtle. You just go there and say, "Oh, dude, why are y'all passing out coffee in the community, or what are you doing?" So it's just a really easy thing to do.
Our population's unique because it's all, our average age is 70 in our church.
Yeah.
No children, so there's nothing to draw people to our
Eternal life. That's your draw. That's discipleship in the final word, the final answer. Because if you're not going to grow, you're not going to grow, and you hate to see the church.
The church itself is growing.
Yeah, that's good.
But there's nothing to bring people into the cafe or to stay on Sunday.
Unless you create an environment.
Yeah.
That you have to create.
It would be
an
an
environment.
enormous investment, I think, to create an environment.
But the pastor has to be passionate about that. You have to have a third space. You got to, hey, we want a Starbucks type, atmosphere here. That's the only way you're going to keep them.
That was going to be phase 2. We were going to go into sandwiches and all that stuff.
Yeah. But you start with the coffee. That's how we get.
Well,
Start with coffee.
We
We're
do coffee.
successful.
Yeah. We charge $1 for a cup of coffee and $1 for a piece of pastry. Not like it's a big deal.
Well, some people that is a big deal.
Yeah,
when you're used to getting it free your whole life.
Soft drinks, and all that stuff. But
I've been tithing for 30 years, and they took away my coffee.
Yeah.
I'm like, were you tithing for
It costs
coffee?
me more for the cup than it does for the coffee. Because I use a Perfect Touch cup, which is a magnificent cup.
Yeah.
I try to make it first class.
Well, and there are things that, and just getting into that, how to build a cafe now, if you want to create an environment, you want people to stay, have mugs that are refillable, give them incentive to try to stay there. So I have a refillable mug. So if they get the paper, they're going to get one fill. They come back and say, "Can I get more?" You got to pay for another, $1.65 for a small and $1.90 for a large. But that's what I do there. But if you want to stay here and sit in fellowship, I'll put it in a mug for you and drink all you want. So just think of those different things that you do when you do that.
When we went to put it in the cafe, our church had been giving away coffee
Yeah.
to the tune of over $20,000 a year.
Right.
And so, Rob, my administrator, deflected most of that. They went right to him. I don't think we should have to pay for coffee. And he just said, "You don't have to anymore." He says it's been coming out of the general fund, and now it's a choice. And it's just like,
So those are the biggest things that you have to answer, when you're getting in there. So why do you want a cafe? Because you're going to deal with all these, questions. You're going to be answering this.
That's what I love to hear people say. What was the impetus? How do you determine we have enough interest? I realize that someone up above needs to support it, but how did you determine that there was enough interest to start planning?
We prepared ours with the bookstore, and then all of the materials for Sunday school classes and stuff like that, they go through the bookstore to get those materials, whether the church is covering the cost or the people that are in the classes have to do that. And then, like where the cafe is not visible from everybody, and so people have to bring people into it. But during the week, it's just coffee, but we probably brew Starbucks. But then on Sundays, they do breakfast sandwiches and pastries and stuff like that. So it's kind of a skeleton crew during the week, and the bookstore manager and her assistant kind of do double duty. And so there's another draw there where people can come in, they can look at books.
And being in charge of the bookstore at my church, I don't encourage anyone to get into the book business. So that's a tough business right now. But if your pastor's doing if you're doing the marketing, materials from your pastor, study groups, things like our church is real big on small group and actually doing big DVD series and things like that. If you're into that side, then you've got that draw. We're going high tech, so we're actually working into touch screens. So we actually, if somebody's buying a book there, they can pick it up there. we can order it and it just ships to the bookstore, so it's kind of neat. So we're trying to do it a little bit different, where we make a little bit of money off of each one of those things by creating our own online bookstore. You can do those things, but just, but you gotta invest, money into the touchscreen 60-inch monitors, which, isn't cheap, and, so you gotta invest in it. And that's the biggest thing, is that this is what we have to determine, and that's the step one, is you have to determine what you're willing to fight for, and you have to be willing to do this, and, you're looking at the budgets and everything else, and, does the church have a budget for you? And are you expendable, or, are you doing this because you really want to create fellowship? Are you doing this because this is just a job to you? And that's one of the biggest things, and you can see that in most of the cafe managers. They get a lot of stress, and they're really, man, this is my career. This is what I do for a living. It's hard. And you're just I learned, that's the greatest thing about this job. I can go and I don't take it for granted. But my staff know, and my managers know, and my pastor knows, everybody else, that I can go out and be gainfully employed. I can work somewhere else, and that's what's made it so easy on me, because I haven't put that pressure, on myself or, my family, that I hold my job loosely. The Colossians 3:23, I do everything with all my heart because I'm working for the Lord. And it helps that my wife's a breadwinner now. So, those are, but that's a blessing. I look at it as a blessing that way. But the church don't take it, the church takes very, very good care of me. But you have to have that relationship with it. And we have to build that level of hospitality where the pastors and the other pastors know that, hey, these guys are the hospitality leaders in our church, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that every guest that walks into this building is going to be, and you can't put a price on that. You can't do that. And people see that. They'll read right between the lines, and you'll know when somebody's there because it's just a job, and you'll know when somebody's there because they get it. They're right on board with the pastor and with what Jesus is doing. You're creating disciples. You're praying for others. You're getting the job done. You're very efficient in what you do. You're a great leader, and you get involved in that. You can write your own blank check. And it's, if that's what you want to continue to do. Yes, sir.
I'm probably one of the board members that don't have a cafe, even though I'm in a unique situation in which we did a survey and I've got all the paperwork already compiled. We did have it on the document to put one in. It was on the long-range planning committee that had wanted a cafe. My unique situation is that I sit on right downtown the city of Knoxville, and I've got all the business, all the court buildings, federal buildings, school buildings, probably 20,000 people sitting within 3 blocks of my church. Wow. So we have a great opportunity to put a shop right on the street that is going to be visible. In fact, we've even made a survey in the parking lot right beside us. I had within a week almost 2,000 people walk by the same spot that I was going to put a cafe in.
What are you waiting on?
Well,
Yeah.
we had everything planned. My prior pastor, he left, went to Florida, and got a new pastor now. We was out of pastor for a year. It went to the committees. He went through 2 committees. Then it got to another one who rejected it because they felt like the church shouldn't be in business to run a cafe. So I'm right now on hold, but it's still a situation that probably will take place with our new pastor. I've already talked to him, and he is gung-ho about it, but it's going to be the problem getting by 2 or 3 individuals in the church, and that's have that everywhere. So it's just going to have our pastor's a lot stronger than the former one. So I got feelings on this too.
And do you want to be that person? Seriously, do you want to battle with the committees and the elders? And sometimes there's just things that we just let it go. Just do what you do well. Sometimes it's not ready. But if you go in and you have, and that's what we want to do in these classes, we want you to be prepared. We want you to have that. Let's fill it up. Let's fill the quiver up. And you can get a lot out of this. So that way, when you go into your pastors, your elders, everything else, why are you trying to do this? Are you doing this just because you're trying to get job security? They're going to feel that. They're going to know that. Are you doing that? Are you really trying to tap into the community? That's a no-brainer. It's like I've been through this. I don't know how many times. It's like, Jesus, kicking tables over, and he's all mad. Okay, everybody knows the story in the
Yeah.
temple. It had nothing to do with doing business. He didn't have, I mean,
Right.
Jesus knew we needed doves and we needed the lambs and we needed all that. So he was mad because people were overcharging these people after their long, journey. And then they were coming in here to give to the Lord everything that they had. And then people were trying to take that much more from them. Yeah, if we go in there and charge $6 for a coffee, I mean, if we're trying to, first off, you charge $6 for a coffee, no one's gonna pay $6 for a coffee, so you're gonna be in business very long.
Well,
But-
the beautiful thing about my situation was that I'd already has gone as far as secured Starbucks as they went on the church program. If anybody doesn't know about it, they want Starbucks on the church program, which I went ahead and got all the information and had that applied, and they called me every month and wanted to know if I've done anything yet. But you can get a franchise within the church for $25,000 with all the equipment, everything set up for you, and your first full order to set this thing up. And you can do that through Starbucks, but you have to do all the construction and everything yourself. And then only stipulation that you can't do is advertise outside the building. Okay, that's the only stipulation they have. The only advertisement, you can do anything you want to do on email, anything you want to try to get accomplished out there, you can do it on email, by word of mouth or anything else, but you cannot put a sign outside the building that says Starbucks.
And just red flag on that one, go submit a Starbucks licensing program to your elders these days after they Google Starbucks.
Oh, yeah.
Probably won't get it, probably won't. So you wanna think about that also. So that is another big part of, you might wanna rethink that just because of the left, the left-wing Starbucks corporation. They're supporting a lot of things. Not saying that we're not supposed to be part of the community. I'm not like that at all. I love everyone, but be careful when you submit that. And that goes back to the submitting process. When you go back to submit this, make sure that you're passionate, that you've gone through all these things. So if it's the name of the cafe, if it's what you're serving, all these different things, turn it around on them again. Not only are we opening it up to the community, but now what can we support in the community? That might be a local coffee brand. That might be, I've got a coffee brand that's called City Kid Java. It supports an entire ministry in the middle of Minneapolis called Urban Ventures, which is the crack alley. It's the worst part of town, and we help mad dads. They have job programs. They have all these things. So all the proceeds, I pay more for coffee, but my church, my congregation knows where this money's going, versus just having the cheapest coffee or buying it from Cisco or anything like that. Now I've got coffee with a cause. I've got posters in my coffee shop, so we know every time we go in there we can submit missions, we can do everything else. So that's where I'm talking about when you go back to who can you buddy up with in your church. If it's about children's, if it's about orphan children, if it's about missions, if it's about whatever it is that you want to support, small groups. I mean, anything you can make your cafe, you can buy something to help support those things. So
There are some coffee suppliers that support mission work.
Oh, yeah.
Like we use Land of 1,000 Hills.
there's a lot of them. Yeah.
And Land of 1,000 Hills, not only is there Southern Tacoma, the best I've ever had, they go to places like Rwanda and they teach them how to grow the
Yeah.
crops, how to harvest them, how to market their product.
And if that comes from the
that money
pulpit,
goes into mission work.
if it comes from the pulpit,
Yeah.
and you got to think about this. This is your business. I mean, it goes back to it's a business. I was in the ice cream business for 20 years. Anything that dealt with ice cream, how do you market it? What made my ice cream so good? How did I do advertising? I mean, you can't just go and spend $200,000 of the church's money, and then sit in the middle of the church, open it up, and not have anybody come in because you're not doing any advertising. You're not telling anybody about it. You're not going and passing out cards to local businesses. You're not out, you don't have like a little delivery vehicle, whatever it is. You need to market it. If you are under that, and that's why you got to go back to what are you in it for? Are you in it for just the inside of the church, or does your pastor and your administrator want you to market to the outside? If you're going to market to the outside, then you need to make sure that you have those funds for marketing. I have $10,000 a year that I use in marketing. So I'll do a local magazine ad. I'll do, I do family fun fest. But anytime I can kind of throw the Grace Cafe in there, or free.
I think the hope was that within the community that's around us, that non-church members would come and use the cafe.
But how much do you spend on advertising? I mean,
Well, we're not allowed to, you can't. Unless you're licensed and all of that, go through it, you can't advertise. So the church has been hesitant to promote.
What law is that? Where's that?
County, you come under county health regulations, you have to be licensed.
So get licensed.
Yeah, I say that would be the next step, would be to do that. And then you're in an issue where the church would have to advertise, and whether they're willing to do that. I try to get, you know.
I mean, but you gotta take all these into consideration, so as you're going through all these things.
I mean, I tried subtle things, like we have an impromptu, unofficial dog park in our church, because we've got 40 acres of property.
Right.
And people bring in the community, bring their dogs in there, which, with our blessing, we provide them with dog bags and all that kind of stuff. And I put tables outside the cafe area, and I put signs out there where they bring their dogs with flyers and said, you know, come on up and, you know, have a free pastry on us. I've done that for a month. Have a free pastry with a cup of coffee, and you get almost nothing, you know, it's not.
You just gotta keep charting, if that's, you know, but
If
it all
you're
goes
giving
back
something
to-
away for free, and you can't draw, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so-
I mean, it's an A-frame sign with balloons taped on it that says free coffee this morning. I mean, you can do all kinds of things that you can, you know, whatever it is that you wanna do, you can do whatever you want. Ask for forgiveness later. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna say, we opened our cafe 2 years ago, and they wanted it open, you know, 5 days a week along with the bookstore, you know, from like 9 to 1 or whatever. And it didn't go over well. I mean, we didn't have the business, and we don't have the volunteers. So we ended up, now we just do Sunday all day, you know, I get there at 6 and leave about 1:30. And then Monday I do all my shopping, and then Tuesday we have what we call soup and sandwich day. So I'm open like 9 to 1, and we feed the staff. I make soup, so it's kind of word gotten around to other volunteers in church. They come up for soup on Tuesdays.
Yes.
And then we're open Wednesday, like all day till after service at night.
Our small paid staff, we do have a small paid staff, they have their own break room and everything with their own machine coffee. In fact, I supply them with coffee, so, you know, with the.
So it all goes back
So I have no
to-
market, really.
But it all goes back to, if this is a business, you run it like a business. So
Yeah.
you start out, baby steps. We don't just, some churches can go in there, when you have 10,000, you know, people coming every week and weekend, and you're in a busy, hubbub, buzzy area, you can do all kinds of things to do that. If you're not, then you gotta start back and you gotta think about that. You can't just throw all this against the wall and hope it's gonna stick, and that's what a lot of people
Yeah.
do. It's like, hey, we wanna open 5 days a week. It's like, how many people have been pulling on the door to try to get a cup of coffee? How many, I mean, think about those things ahead of time, and we do site selection. There's no difference between being in the secular world or being in the church world. If you're not visible, if you're not, I mean, we all know, you know, the bookstore that's,
Location.
oh yeah, the bookstore, you walk in here in the reception area, oh, you gotta walk a half a mile around this way, and it's like this old classroom that they didn't wanna give up, but they ended up doing it. How's that gonna help your bookstore sales? And then you put all this pressure on the bookstore manager, why aren't you getting your numbers? So it's like, who made the numbers?
Well,
Somebody that's sitting upstairs, the number guy, said,
And we
hey, we
did it.
should do this because my buddy in Williamsburg, he's doing $100,000 a year in bookstore sales. So, well, and we love Jesus more than he does over there, so we're gonna sell $200,000 in books. We get into that all the time. It doesn't work that way. And just because we think that, you know,
and we
so
built
we gotta
the
be very careful.
bookstore pretty big and the
Yeah.
cafe fairly small, so
Yeah.
they didn't plan for like a big, because Sunday we are packed. We don't-
As
we
a
don't
show
have
of
enough-
hands, did anybody plan their church properly? Like, has anything gone out?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's the thing though, and I think that, I mean, I think church building is just God's way of testing us, you know, 1 Corinthians, you know, 10, I mean, you're just kind of, all right, you know, how many times do I just need to, committees and building and growing and everything else, and communities change, things change, and, you know, we'd love to be able to get in and spend the money to value engineer and make sure that we're prepared for the next 10, 15 years in every one of our churches, but we can't because we don't know, which I wouldn't go out as an entrepreneur and spend $400,000 to build out this big cafe and everything else if I didn't have 100% support from my pastor and everybody
Right.
else to know that in the future, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna center our
Well,
fellowship
when
around.
we first started doing it, I was visiting all these different churches that had cafes, and
Yeah.
there's one in Houston that's, I mean, their cafe was huge, I mean, she